The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed close to the sea. One of the synagogue officials, named Jairus, came forward. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, saying, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her, that she may get well and live." He went off with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed upon him. There was a woman afflicted with hemorrhages for 12 years. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She said, "If I touch his clothes, I shall be cured." Immediately, the flow of blood dried up. She felt it in her body, and that she was healed of her affliction. When he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house arrived and said, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" Disregarding the message that was reported, Jesus said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." He didn't allow anyone to accompany him inside except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they arrived at the house of the synagogue official, he caught sight of a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. So he went in and said to them, "Why this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but asleep." He took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." The girl, a child of 12, arose immediately and walked around. At that, they were utterly astounded. He gave strict orders that no one should know this, and said that she should be given something to eat. This is the good news of our salvation. Jesus grew up in what is called today a patriarchal society. The Jewish tradition put men in a privileged position. Women were second class. Yet throughout that tradition in the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, and in the New, there are special functions for women. We have Eve, Judith, Esther, Ruth, recorded in the Old Testament as women who were courageous and devout. In the New Testament, Jesus also was concerned with women. We learn in the Gospel of St. Luke the privileged place in Jesus' mission in life that Mother Mary played. In the Gospel of St. John, we have the privileged position of Mary Magdalene. We have also in the Gospel of St. Luke, Martha and Mary. In this Gospel, the Gospel of Mark, we have again the symbolism of life with regard to women. In this particular episode, it is very strong. First of all, we have this older woman who for 12 years had the trouble with the menstrual period. And Jesus allowed her to be cured if she just touched his clothes. Life, healing flowed out of Jesus. But in the other episode, we have Jesus bringing back a young girl at the age of 12, just as she was going from childhood to early adolescence, where she would be prepared to be a mother, to conceive, to bear for 9 months, and then to rear within a family until her offspring was mature. This vocation, as far as Jesus is concerned, is precious. She is a symbol of what human life is all about. But we find Jesus showing not only his human sensitivity, but his spiritual perception. When he enters, he tells the people who are weeping and mourning, the girl is asleep. He doesn't want them to know that he's raising her from the dead, because they will misinterpret this and he will not fulfill the mission given to him by his Father. But for our own reflection, let us see the example in the Gospel of St. Mark of the Sacred Heart. Jesus approaches the bed where the body of the dead girl is lying. He reaches down and takes her by the hand and lifts her up. And then she is completely brought back alive. Mark emphasizes this when he says she walked around. After going through that tremendous experience of experiencing human death, she was raised by Jesus, as we will be raised by him on the last day. But to see the Sacred Heart in Jesus manifested in this episode, we should listen to his final phrase, where he tells her parents, obviously Jairus, her father, give her something to eat. He realizes that this young 12-year-old girl would be hungry, and he wants to feed her through her family. It is a symbol for us of the way Jesus feeds us in the Holy Eucharist.